This is Team Mesopotamia. It's a team from Iraq made up of 2 Chevening alumni. As this is the last presentation, if you do have a question, I suggest trying to get it in as early as possible in the chat so that the team have a chance to answer it before we end. So the presenter for today is Wassem Alward, and answering questions in the chat box we have Sharif Khoshnaw. Over to you, Team Mesopotamia.
Thank you, Catherine, for the introduction. Before I begin, I want to thank the organizers of this event for giving us the opportunity to present the policy proposal we developed to help mitigate climate change and its impact on the environment and the communities in Iraq. Next. So let me start first with the statistics that shows some of the environmental challenges we faced in Iraq over the last 20 years. We see that the number of fossil fuel cars and its associated CO2 emissions have increased dramatically by 5 times. Over 7 million cars as of 2020, with over 10 million tons of CO2 per year. Of course, these numbers are expected to almost double by 2030, as per our projections. On the other hand, a study published by researchers at MIT showed that the mean temperature in Iraq is increasing at double the rate of Earth as a whole. All this made worse by the destruction of green areas around and inside the cities, with estimated 15% degradation over that period. So while all these challenges may not seem connected to each other at first, we think, however, that all they can have a common solution. And that solution is reforestation. Next. Reforestation is proven to reverse climate change and offset carbon emissions. And in Iraq, we think it can play a big role to tackle all these challenges altogether. And that's why we are proposing a carbon offset fees to be imposed by the government on the usage of fossil fuel cars. And the collected money goes to fund reforestation projects. One tree can absorb anywhere between 10 to 15 kilogram of CO2 per year. We did some calculations and we estimated an average of 1.4 ton of CO2 is omitted per year from single car in Iraq. And to offset these emissions, we need 56 trees per car. So as long as people want to use fossil fuels, they need to compensate for their emissions through reforestation. Next. There are a lot of evidences available in the scientific literature on the positive impact of reforestation on the environment and how effective it is in eliminating CO2 emissions and lower surface temperature. That is particularly important for Iraq, as summer temperature inside the cities frequently exceeded 50 Celsius in recent years. It can be also very effective for soil protection and stop the ongoing desertification. We have some reports showed that more than 85% of Iraq's total area is threatened by desertification. And on social level, we think large-scale reforestation projects can support the local job creation and help slowing down the climate-induced migration, as deteriorating environmental systems is negatively impacting people's livelihoods, especially in the southern region of Iraq. Next. Moving into the implementation, we need to address this proposal to the relevant government bodies, which can take care of the collection of these fees. The fees can be collected through different points, such as the petrol stations as fixed rate per liter of fuel, or annual fees added to the driving license renewal, or as additional taxes imposed on the car dealers. We spent some time calculating the total amount required annually. In some projects around the world, the reforestation cost averages $5 per ton, and hence the estimated cost to offset the annual CO2 emissions from cars in Iraq is about $50 million annually. And if you divide that by the number of cars, it equals $7 per car. Of course, we can do more to improve this proposal. The cost can vary from country to country, so we need to develop appropriate cost model for reforestation projects in Iraq that can help us to estimate the cost per ton of CO2 more accurately. And also we can utilize the available GIS and the satellite data to make recommendations and identify the optimal locations for reforestation project. This is what we have prepared for you today. Thanks a lot for listening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Wassem. Wassem, sorry. We have a question ready straight in there. Sasha, over to you.
Wassem, many thanks for your presentation and for your indeed innovative, I would say, approach. Just this is something that I haven't heard before. Just of setting completely, just the CO2 emissions. However, I might not, I am not sure that you have calculated the offset of the CO2 emission only from the operation of the car, but however, there is still the production emission, the emission from the production, from the transportation of the car to the place where it's sold, and afterwards for the utilization of the car as well. And another issue is that I can clearly see that your project proposals are regarding the offsetting of the greenhouse gas emissions from the cars. However, just from the efficiency point of view, I would always, just consider that the offsetting might be not the highest priority as a policymaker or as a decision makers. For me, would be first, just to reduce the number of the cars, just on the street, to reduce, just to increase the efficiency of those cars, just to reduce the fuel consumption by the road transport, to use the public transport as much as possible. And only the remaining, the amount of the cars can be offset by the planting of the trees. But what I can see, you are immediately jumping on the offsetting, just without tackling the problem of the increasing number of cars that you have identified in the first slide. Thank you.
Thank you for the great questions. Now, to clarify, what we did actually was we tried to be as practical as possible. And of course, increasing the fossil fuel cars in Iraq is an issue. But for the foreseeable future, we don't see really any solution. We don't have enough infrastructure to having public transportation system. The talk about any electric cars is nothing but wishful thinking. We still burn a lot of gas. So we try to be as practical as possible to make something that can tangibly make a difference. And that is to really offset what we're having right now. Regardless the source of the CO2 emissions, so in Iraq, we have really two sources only. One is from the transportation, that we consume the fossil fuel. And the second one is the flaring of the gas from the oil wells. And our proposal targets only the one produced by the consumption, especially inside the city. We think it can really make a tangible difference. Most of our cities, or the green cover, at least inside the cities, have been destroyed. So that's why perhaps we have exceeded 50 Celsius in summertime. Having planting trees inside the city will reduce this temperature by 2 or like 3 degrees at least. But to answer your questions, it's from a purely practical point that we wanted to implement such a solution, rather than just go for electric cars or reduce the numbers. We have a huge growth in the population, so this trend of the fossil fuel cars will just continue to increase, whether we like it or not.
Fantastic. Yeah, sometimes I guess the simplest ideas are the ones that are easiest to implement.